Hello and welcome to the Plat's Rat. Hello and welcome to the Plat Rats podcast. This is episode 4. Episode 4 now. We're talking about the NA Regional event, Stage 1. Regional event for EU is finally here. I am Vancer. With me, as always, is my boy Wally Walrus.
What's up, everyone?
And hopefully today will be a little bit shorter. We're trying to narrow down this to not take all day. First things first, we're going to talk about United, which is the biggest story to come out of Group A, because that's where we're going to start, is with Group A today, and probably the biggest thing is United. It all kind of started to unravel for United, kind of out of nowhere. They won their first 2 series, not against the strongest teams, but they won them. They go against Space Station, look really strong against one of the best teams in the world, honestly, especially now with the addition of Reddles. They get to a game 5. SSG, actually, I think SSG went up 2 games to nothing, so they almost reverse swept, take it to a game 5 overtime, like 45 seconds into overtime. Ajax with a wide open net, something that even I probably could score, but who knows? Hits the post. 7 minutes later, they lose in overtime on a one to Mike whiff because he ran out of boost when he went up for the ball. And from that point on, they didn't win another game for the rest of the day. They got swept by Charlotte and Kansas City right after that. I'm curious if you have anything to talk about, anything extra to talk about for the SSG series.
The you covered most of it.
Yeah.
That big Ajax miss was tough to watch. I feel like I as well could have put it in, but I'm not a professional Rocket League player, so you can't really say that.
Yeah.
But it'd be pretty cool if I was. But I thought it was just absolute roller coaster in that overtime. It was just like, even though you think still that Space Station is definitely an upper tier above E United, it was
Oh, yeah.
still just like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it was just so nonstop action.
Yeah.
There was never like one team slowing it up, and even the commentators during the game, it was just like it was a little bit slower at some points. It wasn't like constant speed, because speed for Space Station is what they thrive on, especially with the addition of Reddles. So then it's like they were talking about how in most of the games when it was slowed down, United would drop a couple passes in between the defense, because Space Station's weakness so far that we've seen with this new roster is they all want to be close to the ball, on the ball.
Yeah.
So having that, it was just insane save after insane save. I want to say it was like 15 or 16 saves. It could have been more, because I know that they said that for just E United alone. And it was still Space Station also making, I would say, at least 10 as well. So you're edging closer to 30 total saves in one game.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane.
And
That's just the amount of shots, the amount of offense. It was just never a dull moment. But it's really tough to see where you're inches away. It's not even just Ajax missing one shot. It's like you have that 7 minutes of like you just got to score one goal, and I believe it was already wasn't it? It wasn't 0-0, was it?
Oh, it was. Oh, I want to say that game ended 3-2. But don't
that's
quote me on that.
That's what I was kind of thinking. I could be wrong, but I think it was 3-2, where it was 2-2, and that means you've already scored 2 goals in 5 minutes, 4 goals between the two, and in 7 more minutes, not one goal, but losing every other game following. It's a tough pill to swallow, and then you don't get to move on through this, and you got to just go back to just the grid, and this goes on for another weekend, and you'll just be sitting at home not playing Rocket League in this tournament for them.
Yeah, I know, especially in that game 5. I can't remember exactly how many saves there were. I want to say there were like 14 saves. It was like 5, 5, and 4. So it was like each player, or that's just for United. Each player was making a lot of saves. Same thing for Space Station, was a similar number. And it wasn't like they were just like they'd kind of clear the ball down and you just get a save for it because it's going on target. A lot of them were like goal line saves.
Yes.
It was a really intense overtime. And Space Station moves on, and you're like, okay, well, Space Station was the better team. They won. United will move on shortly. They only need to win one more game out of the next 2, and then they didn't win a game, let alone one of those series. So The next series they played was against Charlotte Phoenix. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one other than Shadow was just unbelievably good in this series. He he played lights out, and like I don't know. Charlotte has always been a good team, kind of on the cusp. The only issue with Charlotte, it seems like they get so close, then their players get poached, and then they got to restructure their whole system. Like they're constantly having roster changes. And Shadow is a new player they brought in, I'm pretty sure. And he looks to be fitting in really well. And Charlotte ends up finishing third for Group A after beating E United pretty soundly, only taking 3 games. And then after that, they played the Pioneers, which I didn't watch.
And I did. So there we go.
Perfect.
The teamwork. Kansas City Pioneers, it was an absolute just demolition over the entire series of those 3 games. It was never in doubt that they were the one that was just like peppering the other goal. And the main person that caught my eye was Rapid. I've not really watched a lot of Kansas City Pioneers because they're new, but Vancer has been more watching Rocket League over the past few years, and he knows that this is the old flight roster.
Yeah, from last season. They were not good last year.
But Rapid, it would just it popped off for me in my eyes seeing him when they played Plot Twist. They did lose to them, but in Game 5 they were like down 4-0 to Plot Twist.
Jeez.
Kansas City Pioneers, that is, and that was like within a minute or two. So it was like, oh, you're already done. Unless some miracle happens. And Rapid's still like, I'll go up for a flip reset double tap, no problem. And it's like, oh, why don't you do that every time? But you can't always do that. But him just showing that off when you're already down 4-0, you're just like, I mean, I'll just try this. And then he did it at least once. I believe another flip reset double tap. I want to say it was someone on Plot Twist. I'm trying to remember who's on. Do you remember who's on their roster?
Sosa, Mektos, and oh boy, that's gonna kill me.
Is it one with the T? Is that the T one?
Taroko. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it was Mektos. He went up for an obscene double tap. It was like he came off the. I'll try to visualize it and describe it. It was he's on the left side wall, going towards the goal, like past midfield. He's like right around midfield up. He's halfway up the wall. He just jumps off, flies with the ball, carrying it on an air dribble. And then like right above the top left corner, that's where he does his double tap to absolutely just send it straight down into the goal. And I'm like, we're just doing this all the time. So it's just absolutely obscene. But Rapid being able to do that, and it was just through all three of them on the Kansas City team put E United to bed, and then they were instantly out right there. Didn't even wait in round 5 to finish them off.
Yeah, real unfortunate for E United. Hopefully they can kind of bring their team back around because they're definitely on the cusp of. I mean, you look at the teams, it's kind of surprising that they didn't move on, but you look at the teams they beat. Actually, I guess Continuum did actually move on to the next week.
But Continuum did get their 3 wins against the First Graders, XSET, and Adept.
Adept, which I don't even.
Doesn't even have a logo. So on this site.
Yeah. So the teams they beat weren't the strongest teams. They almost beat Space Station, but then they lost to 2 kind of mid-tier teams. At least for this
Continuum
group.
did take E United and Plot Twist to Game 5s, but so you can't count them as really, really bad.
Yeah, obviously. Oh, I mean, if they're in the top 8, they're not a bad team at all, for sure.
Their 3 wins weren't the most beautiful teams to play against. But we can move from E United's poor showing to Rogue. Okay. And I didn't catch the Peep series, but you did. So you want to talk about that?
I did get to watch it, and as everyone's kind of been saying for as long as they've been around, is don't sleep on the Peeps. They come out and, they win. They end up finishing first in Group A, only losing 1 game to the Sonics. But their series against Rogue was it was a good one. It wasn't like the most exciting Rocket League, but Rogue didn't play poorly offensively. I just think the Peeps played really well, including Gyro and AJ were playing incredibly strong Rocket League. And the thing I'm always preaching is that strong midfield defense, and that gave, you know, if Rogue can't reach the corners or the backboard, it makes it really hard to kind of get their space going unless they can pass through the midfield, which is something that Rogue doesn't do a whole lot of. So it really cut down their options. So it left them to do solo plays and passing plays basically, and it wasn't enough to keep up with the Peeps goal scoring. But
Yeah,
it was a fun series.
yeah. I'm a self-proclaimed Rogue fan over here, so I know the ups and downs. But Rogue overall throughout this, it's like even in that series, it's like you think, oh, you just have to do solo plays. Well, they have first killer, but it's like you think of a solo play, you can't just be like, go do a triple flip reset, musty double tap. Like you can't just go out and do that anytime.
Yeah.
It can't go out and do those plays all the time. But a lot of what I saw for Rogue throughout Group A was plenty of offense, and that's what they thrive on when you have Turinturo and Kronovi and first killer, especially first killer on your team.
Yeah.
And it would just be very unlucky on the defensive end where they would just have one mistouch or one tiny mistake, and it would just end up costing that goal. And then they would continue to try to shoot and try to put shots on goal, and they would just get saved or just barely wide. So it's tough for Rogue whenever they just can't get their shots to go in. If they could shoot just slightly better, honestly, they're already up in the upper tier of NA, you could say, with the Envies, the NRGs, the space stations, and stuff like that.
Sure.
But if they could hit their shots more consistently in most of their games, I feel like they would at least be probably honestly right with the space station and NRG and G2 level.
Yeah, it would be more solidified.
And it would just be much more that's the top four, and you could honestly, you could say Rogue could be number one, and you wouldn't just be absolutely just.
Yeah, you would have an argument there. Yeah.
But overall, Group A was pretty solid. It's a good day of Rocket League right there.
All right. And I think that's all we have to talk about. I'd say my series to watch for Group A would be the EU SSG series, simply for it was a fun series, and then also just like the way it ended, and then knowing the outcome of E United, it's interesting to see the turning point.
I'm definitely with you on that. That series was the excitement of a possible reverse sweep, and you get so close. And when you finish it off with a 7-minute overtime with almost 30 saves, nothing.
Yeah, nothing can beat it.
That.
Yeah, exactly. And now moving right along to Sunday, we've got Group B. For my series to watch for that, it's Now I was gonna say an answer. Now I really don't know. It's either it's one of the round fives, whether it's Nefarious Knights or 72 pin connectors and Omelet. Or I guess they just go by 72 PC now. So the 72 PC, Omelet, or Nefarious Knights games were mine to watch. I guess I'll talk about the Nefarious Knights one first, because I think that one happened first. So Nefarious loses to the Knights, and the Knights is the old, was it Valence roster, I believe is what their name was?
I believe that's the name of it, yes.
And it was Kinsei, Rodoko, and ZPS, who all played really strong in the series. Kinsei was pretty quiet until Game 5, which I'll get to. But like Rodoko and ZPS were just lighting up. Like all of their goals were like near highlight reel or highlight reel goals the whole way through. For Nefarious, Jay Wismont, who's a player who's been in the RLRS for a little while now, he's been known to be a striker down there. Played incredible in their Game 4. He had 4 goals. Knights managed to come all the way back, and the shot to tie it with 0 seconds went bar down, and I'm pretty sure the game ended right then and there to force Game 5. And Game 5 is where Kinsei really took over. I think they were down 2-0 in that game. He gets like a nice air dribble, and then ties it. I think it was the air dribble to get within 1. Then he ties it with like 39 seconds, and then it makes a pass for ZPS to take the lead late in the game. And then at the 0 second mark, he makes a save. So he did everything he could in that game 5 to solidify them moving on to next week. And I really liked watching the new Knights roster play. So, everyone's saying don't sleep on the peeps, but, that's the old Knights roster, and the new Knights roster is looking pretty good too. So I don't ride them off just because they're not the same roster anymore. They're still very good. And Nefarious as well. Nefarious is a strong team. They, didn't quite make it, but I could see, I could see them doing it or playing well in the grid in other situations. And as for the 72 Omelet series, that series was just owned by Wonder in terms of offense. In game 1, he had a redirect double tap. In game 2, he was just sniping every little thing there was. For Omelet, Lion Blaze actually, who came from 72P, so 72 PC, so it's a rematch, or not a rematch, a reunion against his old team. Gets an air dribble bump in like game 2, just dunk on one of his former teammates, and then and game 5, Omelet kind of fell apart. Wonder continued to score in game 5, but two of their goals came from really bad defensive plays from Omelet, whether it was like turnovers or whiffs or just poor positioning or whatever it was. Like there was, I can't remember the exact specifics, but it was just like there were 2 plays where it's just like they really broke down defensively, and that kind of gave 72 the win. So that was another very exciting series to watch. It was a lot of back and forth for that one as well. So I'd say, if you like watching some underdog teams and you like seeing exciting Rocket League, those are my 2 to watch for Group B.
Yeah, I did not get to watch those 2 series. I believe I went to Chipotle, so I was
Nice.
not watching. But I do. It's nice to see that the Bounce roster got picked up by a more recognized org, you could say, in Pittsburgh Knights. And Keen State is a player I love to watch. I love watching a lot of Ones players. That is my favorite thing. Ones itself is pretty interesting, especially if you can throw in like an Astral or something like that, who's also has like an attitude kind of thing with them, so it makes it a little bit more exciting.
You like the salt of the Ones.
The salt is a lot of fun, but I do love watching Ones in general just because it's like all on you. So that's why I'm a big First Killer fan. And then Keen State is a lot of fun to watch
and
as
Scrub
well.
as well.
Scrub is also exciting. He also has the salt, so he's fun to. He's an exciting character and player. And then it's interesting to see Omelet not really make a scene in the recent weeks and stuff like that, since they got second in I don't remember the name of that tournament, but I know that they went.
Was that the Invitational? Was that the ESPN, or was that before?
It might have been. It was one of those tournaments.
Or no, it was the Summer Shuffle, if I believe. If I'm
whichever
recalling.
Tournament they needed a bracket reset to beat NRG.
I want to say it was the Summer Shuffle, but I really can't remember anymore.
Whichever one.
Yeah.
It was amazing to watch their climb in that tournament, and it's like, oh, is this team legit? But recently they've been kind of faltering. They haven't been playing bad, but they lost to Nefarious in 5. They beat Infinite Shots, and then they beat Frontline, but then got swept by Alpine, and then the 5-game thing where they lost to 72 PC. So it's just interesting to see their drop off as well.
No, they I think you were looking at the Knights there for the Infinite Shots. They played Fisher Friends, Not Food.
Oh,
in
that's
the second
what it
round.
is.
Yeah.
Still a team.
And then got swept by Alpine.
Yeah.
But Alpine looked strong. They had 3. Their only non-sweep was a loss to Envy. So I guess Alpine's looking good. I didn't catch any of those games, but now I'm really interested to see how they're playing.
Yeah, I watched the Alpine Envy series, and it was just basically a domination by Envy.
Sounds like you're not a very good luck charm.
I'm not for them, no. But that could be a segue to our next thing to talk about.
Segues.
Envy NRG. This series was plenty of fun to watch, and especially if you love Turbo Pulsa, because this man basically just showed up to the party to play his old team again, and this has happened repeatedly in the last few tournaments that they've been
Hmm.
in. And he's just like, big mistake, guys. And he just pulls up, and he was the guy that series. You could say anything about the the rest of the Envy team. It was just like anytime anything happened for him, he just read what NRG wanted to do. He was there for the goal. He was there to get the save. It was just turbo, turbo, turbo. And the name that just was never said and did really poorly, surprisingly, was Justin. And that's just like
Yeah.
baffling to have him in such a big series against Envy. It's like you automatically just move on from there. They eventually did beat
They
Crimson
swept. Yeah, they
Wings
swept them in the next
right
round.
after.
So,
So it's like there wasn't really a worry about them moving on, but um,
but you want to see them beat
Justin's
the big
performance,
teams.
you need to beat them.
Yeah.
If you can't beat them, you're not gonna win anyway. So you got to beat the big boys, or you can't make it through. No easy paths. Um, so it was just a lot of turbo. Just basically just showing up and telling them you really want to squishy over me, and he has beat them again because there's been a lot of back and forth. Even though NRG is the team you can kind of think of with that roster,
Yeah.
um, Envy with Turbo, he's just like, I know what they're doing.
I
Just
feel.
do this.
I feel like NRG is the better team, but Envy just has NRG's number. It seems like they had.
They do.
I don't remember. I want to say it was a spring series. It was like one of the first tournaments. It was. I think it was the first tournament after
And it
the
was.
the
Yeah,
the
and they
roster
beat him in
move.
the final.
Yeah, Envy beat him in the final, and everyone's like, "Oh no!" But then NRG did well, but now they play each other again and lose again. So it's
Yeah,
anytime these two teams play, it's eventful because you really don't know which way it's gonna go.
completely agree. But yeah, that series was a lot of fun, and it was really surprising to me to see Justin have to switch to the Fennec midway through the series.
Oh
And
yeah, you can see he wasn't sure what was going
it's
on.
just definitely mentality of you just, and he's talked about how he's really superstitious about like, oh, is it this topper or these wheels? So
Yeah, or his name.
you're getting in your head about what car you're using, and that's a big trigger. It's like you see some people change the design on the car, and I've kind of definitely felt that, even though I'm not anywhere close to the level that they're on.
Yeah,
But it'll be like, oh, that design's a little getting in my eyes a little bit when I'm playing. I can see that a little too much, and it's like, all right, let's tone it down, get something different. Because a lot of times I'll notice it with Turinturo. He'll have the for Rogue, he'll have the Interstellar decal, and then they lose the game. Then he's like, I'll go to the Stocktain and get some normal, more less intrusive looking car.
yeah,
And I think it's pretty entertaining to be like, oh, so you think that was why you missed you whiffed a couple times. Okay.
yeah.
But it's a lot of mentality stuff there. And yeah, but it was a lot of turbo in my opinion.
So yeah, with that win, Envy secured second place, falling only behind G2, which it looks like G2 is back. They beat two teams that didn't make it in, so those are like pretty easy wins. But they had a strong showing against version 1, which is the old Cloud9 roster, obviously minus Squishy plus AXB. Um, and
Oh, that was
that's
the sorry to cut you off. That
yeah.
was the series where I watched this one play. I feel really bad cutting you off.
No,
It
go for it.
was I think that was definitely the series. It was like Gimmick or someone. It was like game. Oh, they had a 2-0 lead version 1, and then G2's like, we'll take that lead away, and so it's 2-2, and version 1's like, we need to get to overtime. Zero, like it's 1 second left, and they're like, let's just drop it down, and the ball popped right up, and it was looked like a shot possible for version 1, but Rizzo just climbs up there, whacks it all the way down to the other side of the field, and Chicago is up there, and all he has to do is just bank it off the wall because he knows J Naps is coming right behind, and J Naps just slots it in right behind, and I think that was to finish off version 1,
Hmm.
and it was just like 0 seconds, and it was just like, and I remember Achieves was commentating, and he was just like, oh, this might go in right here, and it was right when Rizzo touched it. It wasn't even when Chicago was
Yeah.
near it or J Naps getting up there. It was like once he saw Rizzo get that block, it was like, oh, here it comes, and
Yeah.
then it goes straight in for them to finish it off. But yeah, G2
So yeah,
seems like they're back.
Yeah, G2 back in the team house, and it immediately shows dividends. I mean, they lost 2 games, one to Version 1 and one to Nefarious, who, like I said, just missed out on moving on to next week as well. And to even further so, even even more so show I don't G2 is really good. They won the grid as well for this week. If you need any more reasoning as to why they're back, they beat Space Station in 7 and swept Rogue in the semifinals. So it's like those are Space Station you could argue is top of NA, top of the world right now, with some of the times they're playing. And Rogue is definitely like one of those top 5, top 10 North American teams. And G2 stomped them, only letting in 1 goal in that entire 4-game series. So G2's back, and I'm looking. I didn't get to see a lot of this grid, but looking back at some of the other teams they played, they beat Version 1 as well. They beat NRG. They literally only beat good teams the whole way. They beat NRG. They beat Version 1. They beat the Pioneers, which is kind of surprising they made it to the playoffs. But I mean, hey, they made it there. They made it there. They beat Rogue and they beat Space Station. So they're back. If they're beating teams like that, and the way they are, and a lot of Game 5 for NRG and for Version 1, like they're coming in clutch when they need to.
And Game 7 in the finals.
Yeah, and of course Game 7 in the finals. Yes. And I'm looking here, like a couple overtime games as well. So they're coming in clutch when they need to. It seems like. So it's safe to say I think NRG. It's safe to say G2 is back, and I'm very excited because I like watching them play when they're good and hate watching them play when they're bad. So
they're not exciting when they're bad.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because you're like you were good. What happened? And now they're back together and they're fun to watch again. So catch if you want to. I didn't get to see any of the G2 games unfortunately, from stage 1. So feel free to go back and watch them, or just get ready to watch them this coming weekend because we got another full weekend of Rocket League, and I assume they'll continue to play well. If
probably
no reason to not.
They don't look like they're stopping.
And do you want to touch on the EU grid briefly as well?
Quick little note. We can just say that Giants did win in Game 7 against Vitality to have, and they were down 3-2 in that series, and they won the last 2 games with over 2-minute long overtime, so kept it close to the end. But it's nice to see a different type of team, kind of another different, because didn't Triple Trouble also won the grid one of these weeks, or was that the regional one?
No, that was the grid as well for Triple Trouble.
Oh yeah,
the team they lost to was Giants in this grid. So
yeah, both grid results for EU have been 2 teams that you wouldn't expect to win at all. So it's really exciting to see that. Giants played absolutely incredible. Me and Vance are both love watching them. A lot of fun, a lot of pace. But overall, I didn't get to catch a lot of the grid because there's just so many games, and they don't really. You can only really watch them on their individual channels, so it's tough to really catch them. But I watched Giants play I watched them only, I believe. I just wanted to catch them, and I think I watched them play Triple Trouble, Solary, and then Vitality, and they were absolutely killing it in all of those. The Solary one was a lot of fun to see them also go to a Game 7, and then the Vitality series. It's 2 very good teams playing.
Yeah, and again, you look at the. It's nice to see. There's still a little bit of parity from some of these teams, but it's nice to see some differences for Europe. Like Team BDS is showing they're consistently a strong team. I'm just looking at like the quarterfinals right now.
Yeah,
Solary is climbing up a newly promoted team, and they're already getting to the semifinals. Giants, they weren't even in the RLCS for this season, but since the new format, they're able to beat Vitality in the Game 7. You get to see Endpoint in there, who was in the relegation tournament. You see Liquid coming back after playing poorly these last couple weeks, same with Oxygen. And so it's like you get to see a lot of the teams that were good playing poorly are now coming back into form. The new team's playing really well, so it's just EU especially is just such a competitive region right now, and that I think the only game I caught in full was the Giants Vitality series, and I mean 4 overtime games in a best of 7 is like more than anyone could ask for. So I recommend watching the series, even if it's you don't speak Spanish or French. I think I'd recommend watching the Giants series just because if you've seen some of the clips from that series, the commentators were losing their minds over the fact that they were able to beat Vitality in some of these games, and especially in the final. So it's definitely a series to go watch, just for some entertaining Rocket League. And I think that's everything. We covered the grid for both weeks, and we covered NA Regional Event Stage 1. So anything you're really looking forward to for next week for Stage 2 and playoffs?
I
Anything
think
specifically?
it'll be a lot of fun to see if any of the smaller, lesser-known teams can kind of pull off some upset type of thing and make it into the playoffs and do something special.
Do you have any team in mind that you either think or want to do that? I'm curious. Or no one
I think
specifically?
seeing if Kansas City Pioneers could do it. I know they were the lowest team.
No, they
Group
were
A,
sixth
but
out of 8 for Group A.
well, it'd be nice to see if they could do it because I really liked watching Rapid there. We talked about how good Alpine were.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool to see if they could make it through, and also the Pittsburgh Knights. One of those 3 teams making it to at least the quarters, maybe the semis, would be pretty fun to watch.
All right. Yeah, I think for me I think I'm like all in on Pittsburgh Knights right now. I don't know how good they'll be to like win it all, but I'm just excited to see them play more, and I want to see them upset a couple teams. I didn't get to see any of Team Frontline, so I look forward to seeing them play. And I'm just excited to see some of these behemoths in NA go against each other. I want to see if the Peeps can keep running, because why not? But I mean, you got some strong teams up. Oh, and we didn't even talk about the Sonics. The Sonics are back, and they're playing well again.
They are, with Jay Russ being added to that
Mhm.
team. I think it just flipped the switch. Because they tried Illusion in that one tournament that we
The Sonics?
I think they did, right?
I can't remember, honestly. They probably did. Who knows?
I believe that Illusion was, they did try him right after they dropped Dapper for the Beyond the Summit Summer Shuffle.
Yeah.
And they were bad, big time. It was not fun to watch.
Yeah.
But J. Russ being added very recently, looks like that they're playing much better with him, which is a lot of fun to see.
And also with Charlotte Phoenix moving on, there's a possibility
that Dapper could play them, yeah.
Dapper can play his old team potentially. So that's another thing I'm really looking forward to seeing now. So we got a lot of, and we can maybe see the Peeps play the new Knights roster, and that'll be really exciting. The old Knights versus the new Knights. And there's always now a chance. The new Cloud9 roster version 1 moved on. So did SSG. We have a chance to see AXB play his old team again. And the last time they collided was in the grid week 1, I believe. And AXB played incredible in that series, so I want to see if he can replicate that.
He did,
And I think if version 1 can, really figure out how their offense works, like, since now that Squishy's gone, if Torment can play a bigger role, I feel like that team can be really good. So there's a lot to look forward to next week.
Yeah, I'm excited, but I think we've got it covered.
All right. So thanks for watching, everyone. I guess we'll see you next week for more.
Yep.
Bye now.
See ya.